Om Shri Matre Namaha. Hari Om. So, இன்னைக்கு we will look at the next Nama, which is Nishkrodhaye Namaha. 168. So, Nishkrodha 168, 169 is Krodha Shamani. Then Lirlobha, Lobha Nashini. Okay. So, there is a very interesting this thing on Krodha. Krodha, we'll have to, and all of us are very familiar with these two emotions, Krodha and Lobha. Right? But Krodha is actually a very misunderstood emotion that way. Because we always are told that not to get angry. Correct? Huh? Everywhere, be it in your personal life, in your professional life, in your spiritual life all the more, we are told not to get angry. Because we're always told that anger is not good. Anger, what is that said? It generates certain hormones or generates certain chemicals in your body, which is harmful for you. Right? It's supposed to generate some chemicals in the body, but is detrimental to you. It can create some acids and some kind of chemicals that is detrimental to you.
High blood pressure.
Correct. It increases your blood pressure. It does a lot of things. So it's always suggested that you do not get angry. But has it been possible? Has it been possible to not get angry?
கிச்சன்ல டம் டம்னு சத்தம் வந்ததுன்னா தெரியும் என்ன நடந்துருக்குன்னு.
So it is, although it is said, it is something that we feel it is our right to get angry. Correct? We actually feel it's our right to get angry, and it also, this is a cycle that we go through. Something triggers us, and it could be anything. It can be somebody who's told us something that we don't like to hear, or somebody has been pestering us constantly or nagging us, or probably you are in a very drained out condition. You're probably very exhausted and tired and drained out. And when a stimulus comes from the outside, the response comes in the form of an anger. Or you feel there is some injustice that's done to you. There is something severely that's been wrong. You've been wronged in a certain way. Then you get anger. Right? So there are various stimulus how you get angry. And what is the cycle you get when this anger comes? You first, if you're a regular normal person, actually sometimes a normal person is better than a spiritual person, or people on the spiritual path, because people on the spiritual path are always conflicted. We always wonder what is the right thing to do. But somebody who is not spiritually oriented or particularly governed by any kind of dharma or any of that, if there is a stimulus of anger comes, he gets angry, he shouts, he does whatever he needs to do, and then possibly moves on. Right? Now, I'm not saying that is the right thing to do, but I'm saying if you're in the path of spiritual, if you wanting to live a just and a proper and a good and a dharmic life, what happens is we analyze. The moment a stimulus comes in us, the anger starts building up. But on the other side, we start using logic, and we use some of whatever we have learned, whatever we have heard, whatever teachers have told, gurus have told, we use that to try to suppress or contain it. Right? So what happens in that process is, now I don't know if that anger gets addressed or not, but it definitely gets suppressed. It definitely gets suppressed. So now, is that okay? So the question is, when anger gets suppressed, This anger arises in us, it gets suppressed, versus somebody getting angry and displaying it. Which one is okay is a question that we constantly think, right? Which is why a lot of times we find that suppressing the anger is possibly better than getting it out, because we think that you're not in control. If you get anger out, we think that we are not in control. Now, the important thing that when we process this, and then what also happens is we go into a mode of guilt. After we get angry, we either suppress or we display anger, we go into a guilt. Correct? We go into a guilt saying that either I shouldn't have suppressed, I should have told the person off, or why did I shout? I should have given it a little time. Why did I yell? Why did I throw? Why did I do this and that? So there is a process of guilt. So this is a cycle that we all go through. There's a stimulus. We get this emotion of anger. And then anger comes, and then we act or don't act. We do some action. Suppressing is also an action, by the way. And then we go through the process of guilt. Okay. This is the cycle that we follow. Now, what does Bhagavad Gita say? Bhagavad Gita says a shloka here, right? Bhagavad Gita says, I'm just looking at the shloka because this is a very popular shloka where it says how from kama rises krodha, from krodha rises moha. It says, dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangas tesham upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha. Sangat, by attachment comes kama. Kamat krodho bhijayate. From kama comes krodha. Then from krodha, krodho bhavati sammoha. Delusion. From krodha comes delusion. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. From delusion comes the ability or lack of clarity. Smriti vibhrama, you forget what you're doing, who you are, whatever. So there is a mild loss of memory. Smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nashaha. The moment you lose the sense of discernment, then your buddhi nashaha, buddhi nashat pranashyati. Once buddhi is nasha, it is the end of you. This is what Bhagavad Gita says. Now we can take this as it is and we say, oh, okay, so because of krodha, because of attachment comes kama, because of kama comes krodha, because of krodha comes delusion, because of delusion I lose the sense of who I am, who he is, who what is. Because of that I lose a sense of buddhi nasha. Buddhi nasha happens, which means I lose the sense of viveka, discernment. Then buddhi nashat pranashyati. Pranashyati means that's the end of whatever. It is the end of probably the relationship, the end of pranashyati means it comes to not beautiful end. It comes to an end which is not beautiful. Nashyati. It destroys something in the process. Something gets destroyed in the process. So then we go back all the way. We said, oh, okay, then we should not get angry. Okay. And then we should not get angry means then we say, okay, we should suppress anger. And then there are management gurus who come and then they say how to control anger, how to manage anger management. Courses alla nadakkaradilla. A lot of courses to deal with anger management. Count 10.
But then if you keep suppressing anger as well, it gets built up within you and then it comes out in some other form, which could be even more disastrous than, the showing of the anger in the first place.
Correct. So the process there is, should I get angry or display of anger or should I suppress? The truth is somewhere in between the two. Or the way we should be is somewhere in between the two. It is not that, yes, it's always good to get angry or display anger, or yes, it's always good to suppress so that I don't show anger, but I manage it within myself. The point here is of conscious living. What is important is to focus on the fact of conscious living, which means whether you get angry or you don't get angry, it is something that you do consciously. This is something that Kailash also points out, the window of opportunity between an intention and an action. Between intention and action, there is always a window of opportunity. However small it is, there is a window of opportunity. And how we decide to respond, whether we decide to react or respond is the call that we have. We typically tend to react. We usually tend to react, which means reaction is, like Newton says, usually equal and opposite. Response is not necessarily a reaction. Response is something that comes from a place of understanding. Reaction comes from a place of you throw this at me, I throw it back at you. Equal and opposite. That is what is reaction. Response comes from a place of understanding, comes from a slightly deeper place within you, right? Which means you are not transactional in nature. You are not transactional at that moment in time. So when krodha appears, when there is something called as anger that appears, it is important to use a little time to evaluate what is happening there. Now, if you see somebody on the road, if you're going with your child and somebody who suddenly for whatever reason gets angry with your child and starts beating your child, should you go and act very calm there? Yeah, it's stupid to go and act calm there, right? No, it's okay. It's all, you can't act like that. You have to go and act a little violently. You have to show a bit of aggression. You have to show a bit of anger. But that anger comes from, or anger or aggression comes from a place of understanding that there is some level of violence that is happening there. Right? So you're trying to do it as an act of protection. So display anger there. Now, at the same time, if your office don't go well, you come home and beat up your child. That is not a good display of anger. You're using it as a vehicle to vent it out. Because the child cannot do anything, at the best cry, you vent out your anger on the child because you know it's not going to beat you back. You look at this, you'll all generally
These days it's the other way around. அடி வாங்குறது தான் ஜாஸ்தி.
So Kalpaka is rich with experience.
all sorts of experiences, varieties. So yesterday my kids caretaker at school, she was telling me, if we don't obey what he says I'll tie you up on the fan. I'll hang you on the fan. கட்டி தொங்க விட்டுருவேன் உன்னை. என்னடா இப்படி பேசுற, பயமா இருக்குடா உன்னை பார்த்தாலே.
That's possibly, I don't know, எங்க இருந்து அந்த ஐடியா எல்லாம் வருது
தெரியல. திடீர்னு மாதிரிதான், ஒழுங்கா நீ என்ன சொன்ன பேச்சு கேட்கலன்னா நான் உனக்கு ஒரு பைசா கூட தரமாட்டேன் அப்படிங்கிறான். யாருடா சொன்ன அதெல்லாம் உனக்கு? எங்கேருந்தோ எதையோ கேட்டுட்டு வந்து பிக்சன் சீதரை ஜாயின் பண்ணி நீயா அவனு சொல்ற?
Very good. No, I think it's interesting because children also, avalukkum, see, there is a, see, sometimes they also find themselves in a constrained environment. Avalukkum, they want to be a little more free. They want to be a little more, they want to be little more less constrained rather. So avalukku vandu they possibly find some of these things more constraining, and then they get to some measures where, or at least it's good that they're expressing these things in a way, right? Adaki vechindu vanda adarathukku badala they're expressing it, and that's fine. But it's interesting because anger, at whatever age you look at it, it is a very interesting response that we carry. It is also a response of self-preservation. It is also a response to self-preservation. See, if you feel threatened, you will get angered. You will get angry, right? And not only, and self-preservation at various levels, right? Even at workplace, you see, why do we get angry is at certain times is because you possibly feel that you're threatened, you're cornered. So maybe kids feel cornered, they feel threatened in some way or the other. We don't know. So it's a response that comes because of possibly a certain environmental condition. They feel that way, and it's a lot more today with many kids also, because they live in a very whatever environment we were brought up in, as compared to that, the kids are brought up in a very much more confused environment, I would say, because they're exposed to so many things, and there's possibly not much of clarity in terms of what's right, what's wrong, where they got to head, and all of that. So it is the conditions are such, and today also a lot of times we feel that self-expression is also important. So expressing yourself becomes very I mean, as the next generations come, the need, the freedom of speech, the need to express, the unfiltered expression also is becoming more and more popular these days, right? So somewhere it should be in between. And again, kids, of course, it's a different thing as they grow old, and as we start giving them an environment where they feel less cornered and less threatened, maybe they'll start becoming a little more compassionate and stuff like that. But as adults, I think it's a lot more important for us to display an equal amount of compassion. Now, when I mean compassion, it should come from a place of conscious understanding, a conscious response. So when you get angry, we should get angry with clarity. That yes, I am getting angry now. I'm getting angry for a particular purpose, because anger is a beautiful tool also. Anger is a tool that can be used appropriately. Many saints, you see the stories, they have used anger as a tool. Christ has used anger to drive away people from the synagogue, where he saw they were doing various kinds of money lending activities inside the temple. If you go through the story of Christ, you will see that people do that. So Christ got angry there. I can't remember of another this thing, but there are definitely many examples of. The other day I was thinking of this. Who else? Buddha. There are cases where Buddha got angry with his own disciples. Buddha shows anger with his disciples. There was a situation where Buddha's disciples had attained some siddhis, and they went around displaying some siddhis, right? And Buddha was clearly against these things. He said, in the path of spiritual growth, you will attain to some of these siddhis, but if you show those siddhis, people will follow you for that. I don't want people to follow for miracles. They should follow you to seek truth, right? So when he gets to know that some of his disciples have done some siddhis, and then the people are clapping and all of that, he gets really wild at his disciples. And he kind of, in a way, punishes them. Whatever he says, should stay away. And the next time I hear about this, you're out of the Sangha. He tells them, you'll be thrown out of the Sangha. So there are times when you have to show anger.
So all the social revolution, basically it stems from anger for a cause.
Correct. It stems from anger for a cause. But again, it should be for a larger cause. Like you're saying, it should be for a larger cause.
Greater good.
Correct.
Social revolution.
Correct. So then the way you execute it should also be with a sense of understanding. It shouldn't be just rampant. Just because I'm angry, I'm going to go beat up. Parashuramar vandu kovapattu he went around on a rampage to kill kings. Of course, there is a reason why he did that, because the kings were turning atrocious and tyrannical, right? But we can't afford to do that. We can't just get angry and start going on a rampage and showing my anger out. Because then what will happen is, after a certain point, when your anger starts calming down, you'll then calm down. Which means what you did when you were angry, you were possibly not aware of what you were doing. And then when you're calming down, then you're probably you're coming to a state where, okay, now I don't want to do it. The right way to do this is, when you're angry, there is this stimulus that comes from the outside. It generates an emotion. Let's call it whatever, right? Let's not name the emotion. Let's look at the stimulus that comes in. It generates some emotion which demands an action from you. Okay. Now that is where we become conscious and we figure out what is the right kind of emotion that I should display on the outside. What should I display on the outside such that I'm able to respond to this? Because a lot of times, even though I get a stimulus which can cause anger in me, I can respond with compassion. You may have noticed this even within you. Right? With your parents, for instance. Sometimes they'll do some things which will generate anger in you. With that stimulus, it will generate anger in you. But then you process it and then you respond to them with compassion. What is happening there is you're processing it. The important aspect there is to process. So when you're saying Devi is Nishkrodhaye Namaha, it actually means that she is without anger. She has no anger. That is what it means. And Krodha Shamanyai Namaha. Krodha Shamanyai Namaha, she is the one who destroys anger. She removes anger. So in both of these cases, what we need to understand is, what Devi herself, isn't Devi angry? Don't you see Bhadrakali? Don't you see Durga? What are these forms? Forms of violence, literally. They're violent forms, which means she's angry, she comes down and kills the demon, kills the asura. So when she is Nishkrodha, how can she do this? If she's got no anger, how does she do this? It means anger is not okay. So the important thing is, all of these emotions that are there, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, all the 6, although they are called as Shad Ripus, although they are called as 6 enemies, they are not enemies in themselves. They are tools. If we are associating our desires, ambitions, all of that to this, then they become enemies. If you are not conscious, then they become enemies. Then you are driven by them. If we become conscious, you can use them. You can use Kama. Maheshwara is called Kameshwara. There's a reason he's called Kameshwara. He's the Ishwara of Kama. So like that, Lobham, Krodha, Nishkrodhaye Namaha, Krodha Shamanyai Namaha. The reason spending a little time on this thing is like this, Krodha, Shamani and Krodha, because it's very easy to look at saying that she's got no anger and we should not have any anger. That's a straight way to look at it. But is that something that's meaningful, practical? Is that something that you see in real life? Even with your gurus, for instance. Don't your gurus get angry with you? Don't your gurus get angry with you? Do you always see them Buddham, Sharanam? Are they always sitting in a very Shanta space? No. They get angry. They show anger. But they display anger as a tool. They use it as a tool. Which means inside them, they don't carry any klesha. That's very important. They don't carry any klesha. The important thing is, you look at how Mahishasura Mardini is she kills Mahisha, at the same time she kills him because of compassion. Because she sees him suffering. She sees him suffering. He is suffering with his ego. He is suffering and he's causing suffering to the others, but he is himself suffering. He's not able to be at calm. He's going around conquering, he's going around killing, he's going around, chant my name, tell my name, I am the greatest. He's going around doing that. So he himself is not at peace and calm. So he's suffering. So what mother sees, on one side you see that he is causing suffering and destruction, but what mother sees, he himself is suffering. So I should relieve him of the suffering. Those who have seen this movie, Bala's movie, Naan Kadavul. Naan Kadavul is a movie by this director Bala. Movie on an Aghori. Maybe you can watch it. But there's a similar ending in that. He kills the person or the lady because he sees that person is suffering. So, of course, we're not talking about killing and all that. What we're saying is, when you use anger, use it as a tool to help that person come out of the suffering that they are in. So, if anger comes from a space of compassion, look at it, how beautiful it is. It comes from a space of compassion, not from a place of hatred, not from a place of jealousy, not from a place of your inadequacy. It should come from a place of compassion. When it comes from a place of compassion, it's no longer anger. And that is what it means by Nishkrodhaya Namaha. That means there is no this anger that you are referring to as anger. There is no anger there. There is only compassion. There is only karuna. There is only daya. And Krodha Shamanye Namaha, she removes this anger that is ruling us, the anger that is controlling us, that anger she removes. Krodha Shamani, she removes that anger. And what will remain there when there is no anger in that form, which is controlling us, which without our control we react. When that's gone, all that remains is compassion. Karunamayi. She is Karunamayi. She is compassion. And from that compassion, you use these tools. That comes only from a place of understanding, comes from a place of conscious recognition of that Devi is in me. Right? She is this form that is here inside me. Who am I when somebody tells me something, blames me something, points something at me or whatever? I give this so much importance that this anger immediately rules over, because my ego identity comes in the front. Who is he to tell me this? And then we pounce on him. So instead of that, if we recognize that I am this embodiment of karuna, embodiment of compassion, whatever comes out from that place. Right? So she is Nishkrodhaye Namaha, Krodha Shamanye Namaha. Okay. So we'll close that today. Actually, the same thing I'll extend it to the next two namas also, and we can close out. Nirlobha Lobhanashini. She has got no greed. She is free from greed, and she is the one who destroys greed. Right? Greed is also a stimulus. If you look at greed, it is also a stimulus. So once you recognize, and greed goes back to what we talk about in Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. There is no greed once if you recognize that everything is Isha. Right? So, Nirlobha, Lobha Nashini. She also destroys any form of Lobha that may rise within us. Okay. So, Om Nishkrodhaye Namaha, Om Krodhashamanye Namaha, Om Nirlobhaye Namaha, Om Lobha Nashinye Namaha. Okay. So, we'll pause here till then. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Svabhavat Karomi yat yat sakalam parasmai Narayanaayeti samarpayami Sadashivayeti samarpayami Jagadambikayeti samarpayami Sadgurunathayeti samarpayami Hari Om Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.